Hello and welcome to Step Up Nigeria's podcast. Step Up Nigeria's podcast is an initiative built to create awareness of governance issues that highlight the costs of corruption and its impact on service delivery. It is also aimed at promoting values that will build a society with people of integrity and provide solutions to service delivery challenges faced by everyday Nigerians. I am Joshua Odidi, and I will be your host for this episode of our podcast. If this is your first time listening or watching, actually, do well to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button on YouTube and also follow us across our various platforms so that you can stay updated on all our activities. Every year at Step Up Nigeria, we gather to celebrate our milestones, review our strategies, and most importantly, evaluate the lessons from the year. This podcast is basically a highlight of what worked in 2024 and what to look forward to in 2025. In this episode, the management team and I will be taking you through everything we did last year, giving you some updates and details on what you should expect from us this year as a stepper. So let's begin. Over to my guests, and we'll begin from the programs director. That's you can go ahead.
Yeah, hi Joshua, and hello everybody. Happy New Year. I hope we're all excited for the new year. My name is Fermi Ionda, and I'm Director of Programs for Step Up Nigeria. Excited to be giving you guys this updates this year.
Welcome. Thank you for doing this again. Over to the Deputy Programs Director. You can introduce yourself, sir.
Okay. Hi everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Andrew Idoko, and I am the Deputy Director of Programs for Step Up Nigeria. I'm happy to be on the podcast today.
Thank you for joining us. And finally, our guest is the head of programs delivery. I'll let her introduce herself and tell us what we'll be looking out for in this particular episode. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Joshua. And hi, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful holiday. My name is Halima Zolufade, and I'm the head of programs delivery at Step Up Nigeria. And I'm happy to be here, Joshua. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us into the conversation, and then we'll be looking at 2024 at Step Up Nigeria, what it was like at Step Up Nigeria, and then what we did differently this year or last year actually in terms of empowering change makers. And we'll start from the head of program delivery, Halima Olufade, and you can tell us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joshua. Last year was, we had a lot of things going on in Nigeria, but Step Up Nigeria was still able to achieve a lot. And so part of the things we were able to achieve last year was we kept engaging children, empowering these young minds to be able to fight against corruption, stand up against bad actions, and be able to speak up. And so we're also able to co-create lesson plans with civic educators in Lagos, where we had a sit down with them. We're able to train them. We basically handheld them to be able to ensure that they give the right knowledge to children in schools. And above all, we also went to train teacher and parents as well, because we can't keep speaking to children and schools and not ensure that even those people they spend more times at home with are not carried along. So we still went back to train parents, ensure that parents are instilling anti-corruption values at home, not just in their houses, but also in their neighbors and also in their offices, their place of work, and also schools as well, to ensure that schools keep that integrity flag flying and ensure that there are no examination malpractice happening in school. There are no any other bad actions or corrupt activities are happening during admission processes. I'm sure that schools are having academic integrity. And we're able to see that across the years, we were able to train over 166 teachers. We were able to engage over 2,000 children, and also even ensure that we are briefing schools. Over 50 schools were briefed around our integrity certification program. And we also have our anti-corruption star awards last year. We had 5 categories, and we had amazing winners. 10 years old children who won their award just from speaking up because they don't want to engage in examination malpractice during their common entrance, which was the major highlights for us last year. And so these were, and I'm sure my colleagues here would also be adding bits around what we have achieved, which, and so I'll be handing baton over to Andy to speak around more about the things we achieved this year. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Just to to take the baton from Halima, part of what we do at Step Up Nigeria is to basically check, Step Up Nigeria's litmus test, the randomized controlled trials, which is to test, to check the extent of where children are willing to cheat on behalf of themselves or their friends when engaged with other materials, so when engaged with Step Up Nigeria's materials. Just in case you're listening for the first time, the randomized control trials, I just explained what it is basically Step Up Nigeria's test to see if our tools are basically working in schools. And, compared to when engaged with other materials, we recorded a 55.3% level of students who were able to cheat for themselves, compared to the 45% that cheated for themselves when engaged with our materials. So you see that there's a 10% drop among students who were engaged with, other materials, maybe storybooks, just random materials, compared to step-up tools that we use to engage children in terms of, reducing corruption in schools. For I'm going to talk about the project we did with youths in Nasarawa State, trying to build their capacity around demanding for improved services in their communities. We were able to mentor 30 young persons, including young women, to basically demand for improved services in their communities. And we saw a lot of changes where community members were saying we need, lights, we need, security posts in our communities, we need water, we need healthcare. And, we've been able to record some of those successes of representatives of community members actually taking action to make sure the community gets the services that they deserve. That's another thing we did last year. And also part of what we did last year was the tracer study. A tracer study was basically to check the impact of Step Up's programs over the years. People who've engaged 5 years ago, 4 years ago, are they still maintaining that level of integrity? So we're able to check if people are still maintaining integrity at those levels. And I would be pleased to tell you that we actually recorded a high positive turnout of students, just carrying on that education that they received from Step Up Nigeria 4, 5, 3 years ago. So I think my director will speak more on what we achieved last year, but these are some of the things that Step Up Nigeria achieved.
All right. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mar.
Yeah, thank you, Andy and Halima. It was an exciting year. And I think one of the key things Step Up did differently, because I think that was your question, was we had a lot more external engagements last year than we've had since we started. Most of our work is targeted at primary school children and secondary school children. But we've noticed that there's a great demand for ethics and integrity and anti-corruption education in Abuja, Lagos, Nasarawa, the key states we work, but across Nigeria and also across the world. Earlier in the year, last year, we were able to work with schools from Madagascar, where Transparency International Madagascar had the Malagasy integrity clubs in schools, and we're able to have online, virtual training sessions using our own tools to impact children in another part of the world on, integrity education. And even in Nigeria, it was exciting to have gotten invitations from, universities in Nigeria, including Bayes University's Anti-Corruption Club, to give our own thoughts on the role of young people in the fight against corruption. So that was quite exciting. We had also partnered last year with the School for Politics, Policy and Governance, SPPG, in partnership with SEAL Environmental Foundation as well. Looking at the synergy between, when we're talking about creating future leaders with integrity, we're looking at creating individuals who are able to lead, who are able to take up governance positions, people with integrity, but also the importance of ensuring these leaders are climate prepared to take action against, the adverse climate realities that we're engaging right now. And we had our friend from Trinidad and Tobago join us for that session, as well as colleagues from the SPPG as well. So that roundtable conversation with young people, teachers, parents was quite useful as well. And we did a lot of partnership as well with the UNODC this year. We had worked with young champions. We had a youth event earlier in the year where our champions delivered some poetry, and we had youth panel discussions on the role of youth. And this year was, or last year rather, was quite exciting because the International Anti-Corruption Day theme for last year was focused on uniting with the youth against corruption and how we can work together to shape tomorrow's integrity. And with the UNODC again, as well as stakeholders at the African Union Office and the UNECA in Addis Ababa, we also engage international stakeholders, from Romania, Malta, Hungary, African countries, Europe, and we're discussing how do we think about education in the 21st century without ethics education, and how do we ensure that globally ethical education is made a consideration. And it was exciting for Step Up's work to be the focal point of that conversation, to see how ethics education can actually be seamlessly integrated into our curriculum. There's a lot more, but I think two more things I'll quickly highlight in terms of the international demand for ethics education will be that one of our storybooks, Answer Speech, has been translated by an organization in Kazakhstan into Kazakh and is being used to teach ethics education in schools in Kazakhstan, which was huge for us in that what we're doing here can be so easily replicable in another country in a completely different language, and the message is still passed effectively. So that was quite exciting for us. I think looking forward, which I will still answer later, we have been integrated into a coalition including anti-corruption agencies, education agencies like UBEC and ICPC, working on moral regeneration in Nigeria. And we'll speak about lessons that we've learned this year in terms of collective action, but we're excited to be joining this coalition so that we can synergize our anti-corruption efforts to ensure that all children in Nigeria everywhere are learning about anti-corruption education. Thank you.
And
Great
yes,
stuff,
Joshua, just to also add that we also got our books approved this year as well across states. The Lagos State Government Ministry of Education approved our books for 3 years.
Yeah.
And we also got approval from the Nasarawa State University of Basic Education Board to keep using our books in Nasarawa State. And so just to add both with the PD had said is that we're keeping getting approvals both in and outside Nigeria for our books.
Thank you so much. I mean, really, really big achievements, and I'm sure there are still more achievements, but we'll still come to them hopefully before the end of this episode of the podcast. But I'm still staying with the PD because basically at Step Up Nigeria, we are committed to creating a transparent and equitable society by empowering citizens to fight corruption and demand quality services and public goods, which can be summarized basically as building peace, justice, and strong institutions. So the question now I'm asking is how do Step Up Nigeria's new initiatives impact the larger anti-corruption efforts and target towards meeting the global goals ongoing in Nigeria and the world? So how can we tap into meeting the 2030 deadline to, achieve the sustainable development goals at Step Up Nigeria?
Step Up Nigeria's work is primarily focused in terms of our key target indicators and meeting some of the targets for the global goal 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions. And I think it's difficult to meet a lot of the other goals where there's no peace, justice, and strong institutions. And I'm one of those advocates in saying that SDG 16 is top 3 of the most important goals. We know how corruption has affected climate action. We know how corruption has affected quality education. We know how it has affected zero hunger and poverty. If we're not able to fix governance, build strong institutions, then we wouldn't be able to build society that the other goals hope to do. So I there wasn't as much global focus, I think, on anti-corruption, and including how the funding landscape for anti-corruption work also shrunk a bit more in 2024. I think Step Up's work, and we've already established that in terms of the demand for ethics education, I think globally, and I'm speaking to world leaders, I'm speaking to governments, we need to start thinking of what do we need to do to equip future generations to not make the same mistakes that past generations did. We're trying to take action for a better climate. How do we equip the next generation to be climate conscious, not to be so careless as previous generations? We're trying to build peace, justice, and strong institutions. What values are we teaching the young people? We're thinking about equality. So I think there has to be a lot more youth focus in global goals planning. I mean, Agenda 2030 rather is literally around the corner. We're 5 years from this. But I do think in 2030, when we're looking back at what we achieved and projecting forward, I think we do need to hinge the delivery of a lot of these goals on engaging young people, youth, children, and the next generation to build a better world than we have now. And we're young people as well, so we're talking about ourselves and the work that we're already doing. But I'm thinking of how Step Up's initiatives in how we have sort of built an ecosystem. So we work with children, work with parents, work with teachers, work with communities, and we're using cartoon and film and virtual reality. Um, it's sort of such a wide gamut that no matter what area I think any country wants to put their key focus on, we do have a template that has already worked. And so I do think our initiatives and the lessons that we've learned, as Andy has said, from our randomized control trials and RCTs, we have a body of knowledge that can help impact the larger, anti-corruption space and help improve anti-corruption efforts, showing that education is a complementary tool to sanctions, and how social sanctions, which we are working to, introduce as a more common way of, tackling corruption, is something that I think citizens in Nigeria and around the world need to place a bit more focus on. So I think our work has helped to reduce corruption in Nigeria. We've seen that through the UNODC corruption and bribery trends in Nigeria report, which was released last year in July, which has shown that Nigerians have rejected more bribes last year than they've done in previous years. Nigerians also have reduced tolerance for bribery, people who ask for bribes and bribe collections, and that in general, Nigerians are more averse to demanding bribes and bribe payments. So we are seeing some changes in behavior. I think we just have to work towards ensuring that enablers of corruption in our society become disablers. So it's doing that conversion process that I think a bit more work needs to be done. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I mean, more focus should be given to youths in the fight against corruption globally, not just Nigeria too.
Just to add to that, Joshua, I also think part of our initiative is the fellowship program to ensure that youth are involved in the democratic process. And we could see amazing results from what we did. And we have people in our Abuja community who were able to ensure that they have their transformer got spoiled, it got repaired. People are around other communities as well are taking actions to ensure that they're no more silent. The apathy period is gradually erasing off. Youth now know, and Nigeria, we know, our population, at least we have over 70% of youth as our population, which means that the youth now are more willing to engage in the democratic process. It's part of our initiative and also contributing to the global goals to ensure that no one is left behind.
Okay. All right. So I was going to also still speak around the fellowship in Nasarawa State, and you brought it up, the fellows in Nasarawa State, but we also have other communities. I don't know if you might want to just talk about them or mention them now before we move over to the next question.
Okay.
Okay. So Andu, yeah.
Yeah. So Halima already mentioned Agunji, so I'm going to mention Bukan City, Mandara, Apiawe, Gohotiti. Those are the other 4 communities because we are basically working in 5 communities. In Bukan City, there's a bridge that has not been used for a while, a very bad bridge, and with the right skills after training, the fellows picked up the project to say, okay, we are going to our chiefs, we are going to our elected officials to say this bridge is very crucial in this community, so we want to fix the bridge. So far, they've been able to, get constructors to the sites to kind of map out what they are going to do. They've had their designs and they are working on the bridge as we speak. For Mandara, they've basically lacked security in the area for a while. Armed robbery, kidnappings and all of that constantly happen in that, part of that axis. And they've been able to come together and meet the chief of the community to say we think if we have a security outpost in this community, it's going to help reduce, the security threats and, challenges in this community. And they were able to secure a land, and they were able to bring, the DPO of that
Mhm.
area here to assess the land, do land clearing, and we are looking at, laying the foundation for the security outpost already. And it's just been 2 months, 3 months. So they've really done a good job. And also for other communities like Apiaoyi, meeting their local government chairman, because they've had issue of water for a while. And they are looking to drill a borehole for them in that community. So our youths that we trained, I think just like Halima said, with the right skills, they are willing to, get involved in governance, demand for improved services for, their community, not just for them, but something that their community will benefit from. So these are what, our youth in those communities are doing
All
currently.
right. Okay. Still staying with you, sir. Really great achievements, but of course, there are no achievements without setbacks. But let's look at the setbacks that this community and then basically in general, Step Up Nigeria faced last year. Some of the setbacks we faced while trying to achieve some things, and how were we able to overcome them?
Okay. I think I'll start from, the challenges the youths have faced. The youths we are working with in Nasarawa State have faced in terms of getting, this demanding for improved quality services in their communities. Part of what everyone battled last year in Nigeria were new policies. It was a new government, new policies, inflation, increased cost of living, increased cost of implementing programs. So it was one of the major challenge we as Step Up Nigeria and also our fellows faced last year, because there was inflation moving from one place to another. But at Step Up Nigeria, we believe that not just with the mentorship, the technical support we are providing to those youths, we're also, helping them with stipends to be able to go about their business, knocking on the right doors and asking the right questions to who they want to ask. Another challenge Step Up Nigeria faced last year, basically, we know that, let me say bureaucratic bottlenecks. There's a lack of responsiveness from basically stakeholders in terms of our advocacy efforts, to mainstream anti-corruption education. We've been knocking on doors to say, okay, we've tested these approaches and they work. But, that general lack of responsiveness, organ day inside, and all of that, it's also a challenge we faced. We saw also challenges with some of our parents. We like Fermi mentioned, like Halima mentioned, we've been able to engage children in the past year, and we've had champions. We've had people who have taken, actions against corruption. But and we've been part of what Step Up do is showcase these examples so that other children know it's not just, stories, it's what people like them are actually doing. So we spotlight some of the children, we showcase them, we invite them to speaking events. But part of the challenge we see is, parents not seeing the long-term effects of these things we are doing. They are basically concerned with what is the child going to get, immediate, resources, transport, and all of that. So this is one of the challenge we faced last year in terms of, spotlighting or showcasing the work or the efforts some of our champions put into, taking actions against corruption. Then we also, one other challenge I'd like to mention is, difficulty for schools to maintain integrity standards, without
Mm.
constant follow-up. At Step Up Nigeria, we never relent. We always go to schools to say, okay, are you maintaining integrity standards? There are schools we've engaged through our school integrity certification program, and we've said, okay, you've implemented some of the policies that we hope to see to maintain integrity in your school, but they need constant follow-up. If you relax 1 minute, they are down bad, because not just them, but maybe parents are asking that, can you, grant my child this favor? Parents are, patronizing miracle centers. We're not just to blame parents, we're also working with parents to show them the effects, if how they can also join their hands in the fight against corruption by encouraging their children and all of that. So these are some of the challenges we faced over in 2024. But like I mentioned, we've been able to navigate those challenges and achieve success. Thank you.
Thank
If
you
I may
so much.
add,
Yes, please go on.
yeah, and thank you, Andy. Just
Yeah.
piggybacking on something Andy said in that I might be wrong, and someone might correct me after I say this on the podcast, but I do think the state of Nigeria makes the anti-corruption fight a bit more difficult, even in having anti-corruption conversations. I'm thinking back to when Step Up Nigeria was a panelist on the Transparency International Movement Summit earlier this year. And I had heard other young people from other parts of Europe speak about challenges like, pets not getting access to food or people throwing their pets out of the house, and then you compare that to the National Accountability Summit where we partnered with 18 other Nigerian CEOs and then the emerging issues from that summit. Um, Nigerians are hungry, they're frustrated. Um, Even those who are, hardworking and earning their money well, purchasing power has reduced. The inflation on power, inflation on fuel prices, inflation on food has made it difficult for even the modest Nigerians to sort of get by. And so people who would never have even considered, bribery, corruption, stealing, are suddenly considering it now because the economy has sort of pushed people to the wall and people have to eat, right? This is not in any way promoting, unethical behavior, unethical practice or corruption, but to say that and this is why collective action is important. As we are preaching, anti-corruption education, we do need the systems to work. We need those who are working to build government's capacity to strengthen institutions and systems to work. Because if the institutions don't work and it becomes harder to live in the country, we're going to have less people open to hear. And I think that's why we had issues with follow-up and feedback from stakeholders. People don't even want to, have these conversations anymore because they're hungry. So I do think that collective action, depending on what sector of, civil society action in Nigeria, just to chip that in as a challenge that I think we had. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that contribution too. So we'll be moving over to Miss Halima Olufade and then talking about the lessons from 2024. What more do you think can be done to increase the fight against corruption this year? We've heard the lessons, we've looked at the challenges and even the achievements, but what more can we do to improve the fight against corruption this year so that, rather than just like Fermi made mention not too long ago, rather than other nations talking about the challenge around pet and all of that, uh, we can at some point move from all of these
So that
realistic
when we
problems.
start talking about pet challenges, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Joshua. I think one of the things we could also do is to keep maintaining our trainer approach because we've seen that it has been working over time and it's still working. From our last anti-corruption star awards, our junior young anti-corruption champion won. We didn't engage her directly. It was the teacher in her school that trained her. Teacher went through our own teacher's training and went back to her school to train her about why it's very important for her to do the right thing. And during her external exam, common entrance, while the external invigilator was giving answers to every other person, she refused to take the answer in in her hall. So that shows that the trainer approach is working, and we should keep using that to ensure that the fight against corruption continue. Also, collective actions. From what Andy had mentioned from our communities in Nasarawa, we can see how the youth are taking action, and this is because it's a collective action among them. They are not divided. Not all the youth are not thinking, "I want to do good. I want to make sure." No, they came together and are speaking with one voice. And this has shows that it took way a long go. But when you come together to speak with one voice, it goes a very long way for you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So for us to ensure that the fight against corruption continues, to ensure that we want to keep achieving our the global goals, we need to come together. We shouldn't work in isolations. We should keep working and we should keep taking collective actions. And the third point also, another point I would like to emphasize is also collective actions among CSOs, civil society, non-governmental organizations, government stakeholders. We did that a lot this year. And from what the PD had mentioned, from working with the National Accountability Summit, working with the Universal Basic Education Board, commissions, we could see this impact we are having in children, in schools, and this will really go a long way in ensuring that the fight against corruption continues and we're able to achieve our sustainable development goals.
All right, thank you. So Is there any other lesson you might want to include, Andy or firm?
I have one or two. I think we're also learning that behavior change requires a consistency in teaching anti-corruption education. Like Andy has said, through our tracer studies process, we tracked champions that we had trained over the last 5 years. And we have seen that champions who have received more consistent engagement with anti-corruption education were less likely to cheat than those who had received less consistent anti-corruption education. So it does require consistency. So it's not something we can do one-off. It requires a year-on-year, advocacy. And also that rewarding anti-corruption champions increases their own integrity standards almost immediately. It was quite a joy for us to see Naomi Oloyede, someone who we had met 6 years ago, talk about how in university now, we met her in GSS2. She's in university now, and she speaks about how every time she ever thinks to follow her friends to, cheat in the exam or do something that's unethical or against the rules, she thinks, I'm a Nigeria champion. I can't do this. So, helping them to set that bar even for themselves has been quite exciting. And so I think more anti-corruption champions need to be rewarded. There is a global demand for ethics education, and I hope we have donors who eventually listen to this podcast because there's a demand. So we need your funding support to spread this all over Nigeria and all over the world. And just to also say that we are learning that the approach is applicable to other sectors. So anti-corruption, our storytelling approach, apologies, and our behavior change specific approach is applicable to other sectors outside anti-corruption. So health, education, agriculture, the business sector, this approach can be tailored in terms of using storytelling to change behavior. So yeah, reach out to us this year. We're happy to partner to bring these dreams to life.
All right. Thank you so much. So just following up on that, it's 2025 and we're excited for the year. What should we look out for? What should we expect from Step Up Nigeria this year? Yeah, we'll go around the room. Above specifically, we'll start from the PD. That's our program director, Fermi Yonda.
If you start from me, I feel like I'll finish everything, but I think one one thing you should expect from Step Up is innovation. We're constantly learning, we're constantly improving our own methods and our approaches. What you should expect this new year is that we will move our interventions into new states that we haven't been before. We'll also be expanding into new sectors that we haven't worked in before. And we have some new partners that we hope to introduce our programs with them in the new year. So excited to be expanding our work. We're also leading the Nigeria Behavior Change Coalition. We're excited to be leading that. So we should be talking a lot more about BCCN and the work that the coalition will be doing. So that's also quite exciting. And we do hope to kick off our franchise model next year, which would be a package and a training that allows other civil society, academia, and around the world to replicate the work that we're doing in their own countries. So look out for those things. I'll let my colleagues respond and then chip in anything else that wasn't added. Yeah.
So when your boss talks, it's not good to add to what your boss is saying, but I'll just add maybe one. Part of what you should expect from Step Up Nigeria this year is a lot of
Policy briefs,
Policy briefs.
advocacy
policy
papers.
briefs, exactly.
Yeah.
Policy briefs, reports. We are going to be publishing a lot of them this year to just show people how what we've done is working and how we've checked those, just like our tracer studies, we are going to, publish a report to say we've engaged these people during these years, and over the years, this has, we have the evidence already, because Step Up Nigeria is more evidence based. So we are going to be producing policy briefs this year to show that what we are doing is working. Because most times when you go out and you tell people I'm working around anti-corruption, and they're asking you, but Nigeria is still corrupt. But you're saying, okay, in the small space we've engaged, we've seen the difference. So, with more resources, we could do more, and we could, create that needed change for Nigeria. So this year we're going to be putting a lot of policy briefs out. So just to add that.
All right.
Just to add that as well, to say that we hope to, as the PD mentioned earlier, that consistency in the work we do is that we'll keep following up with our fellows. We're still working with our fellows. We're also working with our champions around states to ensure that they keep the anti-corruption flag going. And also, we'll be dropping some tips around climate actions. We all have to be climate um
Conscious, yeah.
yes, climate conscious. So dropping some tips around climate to ensure that we are all climate conscious. Don't leave your light on and all of that. So expect more of us around climate.
Okay. So just to also point out, okay, all right, Ma.
No,
But
go ahead.
Halima made, yeah, she made mention of the train the trainers approach rather. So 166 teachers last year. Hopefully there would also be a teachers training this year too.
Yeah.
And this is a good time to also say
Yeah.
if you were interested, you should look out for links to register on our social media platforms. But yeah, over to you,
Yeah.
Fermi, please.
Yeah, like Joshua said, we're not stopping any of the things you know us for. This year, we'll continue to train teachers, we'll continue to engage with children and young people on integrity, and ethics and empowering them. Our fellowship program hopefully will launch as we wrap up the one we're currently running. We hope to run another fellowship program in the middle of this year as well. But I have exciting news for you guys. I'm not going to give you all the details, but just a few stuff. For our school certification program, we're going to be launching a new automated LMS site for that to enable schools from Nigeria, all over Nigeria, to be able to get their schools integrity certified. So we're really looking
No,
forward
all right.
to launching that. We're launching an app. I'm not going to tell you what the
Mm,
app is about. We're not going to give you all the details, but
yeah.
fully expect that you're going to see a new app from us this year. And of course, you guys haven't seen an animation from us since 2023, but we are launching a new animated series this year. Again, I won't give any more information than that, but expect that. And as we wrap up our MacArthur Foundation grant this year, we'll also be launching a documentary covering all the work that we've done. So there is a lot to look forward to. So please subscribe to our newsletter, look out for our newsreel on social media, follow us on our X spaces, and ensure that you're keeping up with all that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So really exciting stuff to look forward to this year 2025. And once you follow us on all social media platforms, which will be reading out to you at the end of this podcast, you can be sure not to miss anything pertaining to Step Up Nigeria and also how you can be a stepper too. Also, we do have a board game that we enjoyed
Yeah.
last year. We have a board game too, so
Mhm.
you can do well to follow us and find a way to get one for yourself, your friend, your family, and whomever it is you'd like to gift the board game to. So at this point, I'll be getting in the closing statements. What's your word to someone listening, someone watching? How can you? What words do you want to give them to keep them encouraged in the fight against corruption, and also towards SDG 2030, and basically how to encourage a Nigerian who at some point is giving up on whatsoever fight against corruption is going on in the country. Let's start from Alima.
Sure. Started with me. You want to end with me? Should I start with the DPD?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I would say that as young Nigerians, don't lose hope.
Yeah.
Be determined and know that for every action you take, you might not really see it now. It matters basically. Like the we mentioned earlier, Naomi was in JSS 3 when we engaged her, and now she's in the university and she keeps taking action. So it just tells you that one person can make a change, no matter how long you think it is, or maybe even when you don't see it now, it's you're going to see it later. 2030 is still and I know it's not far, it's 5 years from now, but we can do a lot in 5 years. So let's keep doing the work.
All right, thank you. Over to you, DPD, Mr. Andrew.
Okay, just in the same, I'm just going to toe the same line Halima has told. If there's a problem, and you don't tackle it, the problem is not going to go anywhere. It's going to remain there staring at you till you actually do something about it. And that is what Step Up Nigeria is doing, trying to tackle this huge problem of, anti-corruption step by step. And, just like everyone says, just like my dad says, a journey of 1,000 steps starts with a single step. So We are taking the step one at a time, and we are seeing changes, and we'll continue to take those steps to, bring about a needed change for Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Fermi, finally.
Yeah, thank you. Please buy our books this year. We've been running a Buy a Child a Book campaign, and our books are one of the most affordable books on the market. I would encourage you, if you're listening, our email address is info@stepupnigeria.org. Send us an email request. Buy a book for a child in your community, for your friends' kids. And that's your own way of contributing to building future leaders to act with integrity. Final thoughts would be, we can do it if we work together. We're stronger together. So more partnership this year, more collaboration this year, and hopefully together we can meet the global goals.
Okay, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our guests on this particular episode of the podcast. Thank you, Fermi, Yanda, Andrew Doko, and Halima Ulufade. Thank you so much for doing this with us. And you also who have listened, we do hope you had a great time listening to this episode. You can check us out on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and even YouTube. You can follow us on all social media platforms. On X, we are at step_up_Nigeria. On Instagram and Facebook, we are step_up_Nigeria too, all small letters, on Facebook and Instagram. And then finally on LinkedIn, you can find us at Step Up Nigeria. I remain Joshua Odidi. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.